Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A hearty, warm welcome to each and every one of you who's participating in the fourth day of the world's first virtual implant expo organized by your very own dentistchannel.online. My name is Ruben, and on behalf of Team dentistchannel.online, I will extend very warm greetings to all you lovely people who are watching us live from various parts of the globe. Very quickly, I request you to kindly introduce yourselves along with the place you are joining us from. You can do the same in the chat box. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. Up next, we have a very special speaker all the way from the beautiful Athens of the East. Yes, I'm talking about our very own Dr. Sabrinathan. A short introduction about a speaker. Dr. Sabrinathan has graduated from the prestigious Government Dental College, Thiruvananthapuram, in the year 2008. He's a professor and a postgraduate research guide who actively practices and teaches the art and science of restoring and recreating smiles with over a decade of clinical experience in prosthodontics and implantology. With many scientific publications to his credit, he believes in evidence-based dentistry and providing patient care based on strong scientific evidence and protocols. He has been a senior consultant prosthodontist and an implantologist with numerous dental hospitals like the Apollo White, Vasan Dental Care, etc. in the past. He is a member of the Indian Society of Oral Implantologists, Indian Prosthodontic Society, and has also cleared the Part 1 exam of the Diplomate of the prestigious Indian Board of Prosthodontics. He has also undergone advanced trainings in digital implantology based in Madrid, Spain. He has delivered numerous lectures and conducted hands-on at various forums on basic and advanced implantology. His fields of expertise include implant restorations, immediate implants, full mouth rehabilitation, cosmetic smile corrections, and maxillofacial prosthodontics. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting to you Dr. Sabrinathan live.
Thank you, Ruben, for that nice introduction. Big thanks to you guys at Dentist Channel Online. You're really doing a wonderful job, especially at this time wherein we are all stuck in our houses. Actually, this pandemic in a way has isolated us and also in a way has brought us together. It has shrunk the world really. So we're able to attend seminars and meetings and hear people from any corner of the world. So I think that's a good part, and you people are making the best use of it. So without wasting much time, we'll go into the presentation. So warm greetings to you all from the Athens of East, Madurai, a beautiful, historical, vibrant, colorful city from Tamil Nadu. It is one city which is continuously inhabited by people for more than 5,000 years without a break. So once the pandemic ends, I invite all of you to pay a visit to this interesting place. Having said that, this is me. I think Ruben has already given an introduction. So I was asked to present on actually the restorative part of full mouth implants. Most of the presentations were targeted towards the surgical part or the treatment planning and other things. But the purpose why we are doing all this treatment planning, all this, or why the patient is willing to undergo so much of pain, the surgery, the drilling, everything, is because the patient wants to have teeth. That's it. It's because of the restoration that the patient is coming to us. So we need to be well versed and we need to be well informed regarding the various options which are available to rehabilitate the completely edentulous states. Okay, so I'm not going to address the basic part of it or the surgical part, maintenance part, and also single implants. So this presentation will be limited only to the restorative options and the way we execute your full mouth implants. Okay. Edentulism always is not cute. After some age, when you don't have teeth, then it's a cause of worry. And also when people age, when they tend to lose teeth, really it is a handicap. The World Health Organization has recognized edentulosum as a definitive disease entity. Might be the prevalent rates may vary from place to place. Where I live in South India, at least 50%, that is every other person has at least one tooth missing. So that is the degree of prevalence of this disease here. And when we take complete edentulism, we can say people nowadays, they are not going for, they are not becoming edentulous because they are going for root canal treatments, they are going for all prophylactic treatments and all those. But still, since the lifespan of the people is increasing, they tend to live longer. Nowadays, 75 or 80 years is a normal lifespan. So since the lifespan is increasing, there is a definitive group of people who are completely edentulous, who are oral invalids, who need our care. Might be in our place, a survey which was done 8 years before reveals a prevalence rate of around 20%, 15 to 20%. So this is the first thing which comes to our mind, isn't it? Whenever a completely edentulous patient comes to us, if at all you have had some hands in implants, or you have an implant consultant, or you have a interest or a passion towards doing it, then these are all the questions which pop up in our mind. Okay, should we go for All-on-4? Should we go for zygoma? Many a times when people send me the cases, they used to send this OPG only. The right hand side corner, you can see only that OPG. That is the only diagnostic information they give me. But they ask me all these questions. Doctor, which one will go All-on-4 or zygoma? Shall you go for a zygoma? What about it? Is it a screw retained or a cement retained? What is your charge? How much should I charge? And when will you give the teeth? And all these questions are being bombarded with this one radiograph. And some kind people will give me some intraoral photographs. Now we will see why this information is not at all sufficient to make any decision. Leave alone the most important decisions. It is not sufficient to make any decisions either regarding the implant surgery or the restorative options. We'll see why. Okay, our decision is going to be any one of these three. That's finalized. Whatever might be our diagnostic path, or whatever might be the way we take, this is the only option. There are only three treatments. Either you rehabilitate the patient with a removable complete denture, or you give him a removable implant supported prosthesis, or you give him a fixed complete denture. Only these three. So in that way it is simplified. But how to choose which one is going to serve, or which one is going to perform better in that particular case? That's a big question. So when these things are running in our mind, what about the poor fellow, the patient? He doesn't care about your All-on-6 or zygoma or whatever it is. All what he is carrying is he needs teeth, and he needs it now, and he needs it good, best, cheap, and painless with a guarantee. So this is what they are going to expect. Even for a small dental treatment like a filling, they are expecting the same thing. And no wonder they expect the same thing for a full mouth implant. So they want their transition, however poor their dentition might be, however neglected oral caries, the transition from that failing dentition to the third dentition to be as smooth and as happy as possible, right? So this is the result they want. So these patients, some of them are having complete denture, removable complete denture. Some of them are having removable overdentures, implant supported 2 and 4. And 2 of the patients are having full mouth implant supported fixed complete denture. Okay. So all the 3 criteria which we saw, it's there. But one thing in common with all of them is they are all happy. Their smile shows that. So this picture is to drive the point that, so see, whatever goes in, whether you have put in an implant or not, whether you have put in any number of implants, which company, which surface treatment, which connection, nothing is going to be seen outside, or the patient is also not concerned about it. As far as the aesthetics and function is good, they are going to be happy. So please keep all the options open, and please let us all remember that the patient comes to us asking for teeth and not for implants. You might ask, do implants really improve the quality of life? Or is it just for the implant company and the doctor to make money? Definitely not. You can see the implant treatment definitely improves the quality of life. You can see, especially the fixed implants, the fixed complete denture, there is a significant difference in the function and also the psychological comfort. Definitely the removable and the fixed complete dentures, they are much better than the implant supported removable and fixed complete dentures are much better than your conventional removable denture. Of course, there may not be a significant difference between removable and fixed, but there is enough scientific evidence to say that the implants definitely, they are a game changer. Given that fact, so how do the countries fare all around the globe? You can see at one end, there is countries like South Korea or USA, wherein there are lots of penetration of implants. People are doing lots of implants. Whereas countries like India and other developing countries, wherein the number of implants is done is very less when compared to the population. Fine. So people, for those who are doing single implants or who have begun their implant of practice, please remember, full arch implant is not difficult. Only thing is it needs a different skill set. It needs a different mindset, a different view, and a different skill set. So for those who are afraid to take up full mouth implants, here is again a scientific evidence for you. You can see the risk ratio in replacing a single tooth, especially the anterior teeth. Okay, the anterior teeth in an aesthetically sensitive zone, it is much more than replacing a full arch restoration. A completely edentulous patient can be easily restored with less risk factor than a partially edentulous patient. Fine. So these are all the options. So to see how we go about and how we narrow down upon that option. And this debate is always there, fixed versus removable. So why I'm concentrating on this in the earlier part of my lecture is that because many people have a notion that implant supported complete denture means it's fixed. Even the patients think that implants means it's fixed. They think that you will put the screw and you will fix it up. But please remember, and please also remember to inform the patient that there is a removable option. And in many cases, the removable option is the only option which will satisfy the patient's needs. So even though the patient prefer fixed option, even though we also think that patient prefers only fixed option, some interesting journals are there which say that not all criteria score well for the fixer. The fixed complete denture, your all-on-4s or your hybrids or your implant retained PFM crowns, full mouth PFM crowns, they all fare well only in the areas of stability and psychological comfort, because the patient is having a teeth which is fixed. So he need not worry whether it's going to come out or removing and cleaning it. Okay. But in the fields of aesthetics, the lip fullness, the facial support, and replacing of the pink aesthetics, and also for hygiene maintenance, and in few cases, for the clarity of speech, your removable dentures or implant supported removable denture fare much better than your complete denture. So we have to weigh the options before giving it to the patients. And some patients have even said, like they feel comfortable with removable denture in the maxilla and fixed denture in the mandible. Okay, for mandible, they need a fixed denture because the bone is moving and also the tongue is there, it's going to disturb. So obviously they need a fixed denture. Maxilla also, the support of the palate is there, and when the patient, they can very well adapt with the removable denture with the added advantage of aesthetics and phonetics. Okay. So as far as the clinician is concerned, what we want is, we want a easier, risk-free, predictable, and a long-standing outcome. Okay. So when you see that the fixed dentures score a little bit better than the removable dentures, and for overdentures, many of us, we tend to do overdentures with 2 implants, especially in the mandibles, right from the Meckel's consensus days. People are doing that. Yes, it is effective, it is simple, but studies have shown favorable results for 4 implant supported overdentures in the mandible than with 2. And the loading protocol is immaterial. If you achieve good primary stability, both immediate and delayed loading functions well. Here you can see whether it's a removable denture or it's a complete fixed denture, there is no difference in the bone loss also. So some people may tend to think the biomechanics is different. Fixed dentures are going to give more force or removable dentures are going to give lateral forces. No. You have n number of studies from 96 to 2004 and even the latest one in 2020, which says that fixed and removable dentures in terms of marginal bone loss and peri-implant health, they all fare equally. So where do you start the journey? So these are all the questions which will come to our mind, as I said earlier. But I think if we can answer these questions, it will be better for us. Because these ones on the left-hand side, they determine the short-term results on the day of surgery or immediate results. But we are bothered more about the long-term results because the restorative part is the one which determines the long-term prognosis. I'm sorry. So my lecture revolves around only these two things. The crux of my presentation is only around these two things: the available prosthetic space and also the smile line. Because once you decipher these two things, you will know what type of prosthesis to give: fixed or removable or hybrid, or with flange, without flange, okay? Which material, titanium, or should I go for an implant level? Should I go for an abutment level? All these important questions will be answered if only we can answer these two questions. What is the available prosthetic space for that particular case? And how is the smile line? Of course, we are going to place implants in the bone. With this result in hand, we will go and plan and place the implants. Now, so the available prosthetic space is nothing but the space which is lost due to tooth loss and soft tissue loss. So it can be mild, moderate, or severe depending upon the desorption and the duration. So this is a situation wherein people are, when they try to fix everything in one box. So you can see the entire process is chipped off. Okay, only the framework remains. It's fractured. The teeth are chipping off. It's because there is not enough prosthetic space. People have not done bone reduction, or they have not taken care of giving the enough prosthetic space. This is another situation. This is an interesting case which we solved. This was a situation. The dentist, he has placed the implants. The implants are placed by the general dentist. Fairly well he has placed. But then when he tried to restore it, then only he saw that there is no way he could restore. This was the denture, and this is how the patient was, right? So when you are asked to restore such a case, the first thing you are bothered is about the space. Sorry, we are not bothered about the implant, we are not bothered about the osseointegration because it's all fine. It's all integrated and there. But imagine the situation wherein we are not able to restore it, and we are in real trouble. And they have promised the patient a fixed denture. So what we did was, we did intentional root canal treatments, crown lengthenings, and we gained space in the upper arch. Then we restored the lower arch with a implant level hybrid prosthesis. Okay, we got a better result, much better than how it was before. Again, here the only issue was the restorative space. If only they have assessed the restorative space and already have leveled the maxillary occlusal plane and did a little bit of mandibular platform flattening, this would have been a straightforward case. The next interesting case is this one. Believe me, this was a final restoration. This was what the patient was told. This is your final restoration, and this is what can be done for you. Will any of us accept such a restoration after spending so many lakhs and undergoing trauma? This is how the mandibular arch was. So we tabbed and removed the denture. It was a basal implant. No negative comments about basal implant. I also do practice basal implants in some situations, but whether you practice basal or conventional, one piece or two piece, you have to follow the rules, isn't it? So they have not followed the rules. They have not given consideration for space. This was the pre-op. This is how the OPG was looking after implant placement. You can see the very thin framework which is there. So where do they give the teeth? The abutment and the framework is occupying the entire and even the more space which is available in the patient's mouth. So this is the situation. So where do you give upper and lower teeth, leave alone the smile line and aesthetics? So we went ahead, we removed the implants, let the tissue heal. We did a diagnostic workup, a trial denture. We placed these implants. These are Straumann rock solid implants, very ideal for immediate loading using the ProArch concept, something similar to your All-on-4 concept. And both maxilla and mandible, we did that. We temporized it with a conventional denture post-op. We left the patient for 1.5 months. For BLT, it's a titanium zirconia implant, the rock solid surface. You can do an immediate loading in 1.5 months or an early loading in 1.5 months. Impressions were made. Jaw relation. This is the final denture. Okay. Same patient, we did not do anything dramatic, no dramatic bone reduction or no orthodontic surgeries or nothing. We just followed the protocols. Protocol, by protocol, we mean giving importance to the pre-operative prosthetic workup. Okay. So before I go into the available space requirements and the numbers, I thought it will be prudent on my part to show you the cases. So all these 3 cases which you saw just now were done by good people, but they didn't give enough importance to the prosthetic aspects. So when you give that importance, you can dramatically change the result. This is other way around. A removable prosthesis was given. This is a framework. The patient was having this overdenture with a 3 clip. It might be a header bar or a milled. It doesn't look like a milled bar. So this is the situation. Here you can see beautifully placed implants, good company implants, but they didn't give space for the teeth. So that's why they keep coming away. Fine. So now how to restore these cases? You cannot go and alter the implant position now. Explantation of so many good integrated implants is also a problem. So only thing what we can do is we can try giving an implant level, okay, a ceramic hybrid prosthesis. I'm saying ceramic because it needs less space. Acrylic again is going to chip it. And this is another case where again, just the opposite of the previous one. We should have gone for a removable denture, but the patient insisted on a fixed denture. So they ended up giving a fixed hybrid like this. You can just look at the amount of horizontal cantilever that is there. This is going to induce a lot of leverage forces, and the hygiene maintenance is going to be a problem. Process is also going to be very bulky. So now let us see what is it which is causing all these problems. Restorative space, what is it? It's nothing but the 3-dimensional space, height, width, and breadth needed to accommodate a tooth and help it to function well, whether it's a single tooth or a sectional FPD or a full mouth. A restorative space is a 3-dimensional space. So think 3-dimensional. And also, it's better to work from the tooth position, because the moment we think about implants, we think about bone. No. If we think about tooth, then we are going to give better results. So work from backwards, from the tooth position to the gingival zenith to the bone level. So that is the way to go, the reverse engineering or working backwards. So how do you assess the restorative space really? One thing is you can do a trial denture, but the best part would be to do a diagnostic mounting, and the trial denture will give you the exact space which is available in the model. Okay. And remember, your restorative space also includes the gingival margin or the soft tissue depth. So don't worry if there is less space or more space. you can do some changes to the soft tissue and the bone level, and you can get your proper restorative space. So for those who are interested in numbers, please remember at least 15 mm of space is needed if you want to go for your all-on-4 with a hybrid processes, okay, with your at your abutment level. Anything less than that, you have to go for fixed screw retained crowns. If you have only 7.5 or 8 mm of space, you can very well go for fixed crowns, but they are not cost effective. They need more implants. So the most famous thing or the most adorable thing in town is your all-on-4 with your fixed hybrid. So you need at least 15 mm of space. By space, I mean from the occlusal plane to the bone level. Okay. In this picture, if you see the tip of the incisal edge to the neck of the implant or the platform of the implant, that is the restorative space. That is true for your single tooth and also for your full mouth. So we are not talking about the space in the whole mouth. Interarch space means the space from the occlusal plane to the bony platform. This is a very good recommendation given by Ali Tunkiwala and Dr. Uday Thake. It's a very nice article. People can go through. They have given it is spoken in detail regarding the space requirements, right from single crown to bar retain or dentures. Okay, you can see your fixed options are viable only when the space is from 10 to 15 or 18 mm. Okay, more than 18 mm, you try to give a fixed option, it's going to be a failure. So better go for removal. So now you have to think when the patient is going to have more than 18 mm of space, when there is going to be extensive resorption. When there is extensive resorption, too much loss of a tooth and soft tissue, there definitely you are going to give a removable denture that will function better than a fixed denture. So all-on-4 or the hybrid processes is not the only panacea, it's not the only cure for all edentulous situations. Fine. We have so many options and these are the numbers. So, but for people still who stick to all-on-4 with hybrid, they say this is the only option viable. Please remember, greater than 15 mm, you go for your acrylic. Less than 15 mm, you go for your ceramic. If you do the wrong choice, if you give a bulkier ceramic, it's going to fracture, and if you give a bulkier acrylic, again it's going to break. I mean, thinner acrylic, it's going to break. Acrylic in thin sections and ceramic in thick sections, both are weak. And especially when you are restoring single arches, opposing a natural dentition, it's going to take more forces. So you should be really careful. So how do you rate this case? Implants are placed well. They've given a fixed option. But look at the prosthetic emergence. Look at the flange. Even a complete denture won't be so bulky with all the what you call ups and downs like speed breakers. So we should also think the patient needs to speak, eat, chew, talk, and maintain the hygiene for this. So I don't think it is really possible with the extent of the cantilever, the acrylic coverage and the palatal coverage that is there. So in this case, ideally, if that was the position where implants could have been placed, there is no option for grafting or changing the implant position, at least they could have gone for a removable option. Let the implants be in that position, give a framework, give a removable denture, it's going to function well, especially in the maxilla. What's the problem? So these are the prudent decisions which we need to take. So how to assess the available prosthetic space? As I said, with your mounted diagnostic models, or you can go for the trial denture without a labial flange that will tell you whether there's going to be any tissue. So where is your transition zone? And also virtual plannings, they help a lot. If you give an articulated model and also the CBCT, they superimpose and they tell you everything. I'll show you a planning case also. So you can use your duplicated denture, cut off the flange, and you can use it as a trial denture also. Fine. So do a workup, do the complete denture first. So it's implant should not be the first thing should be done. It should be done. Your denture should be the first thing which should be done. And don't worry if the denture is retentive, don't give it to the patient. You stop till the trial phase because that's what we want. Don't give the denture. Okay, sometimes if it's retentive, the patient might walk away with the denture. So this is one case, a very simple case. We'll start from this. 2 implant supported over denture or implant retain, we can call. Okay, only for retention. The ball abutments are used with a chart side pickup. Usually it's better to give a even if not a framework, at least a mesh work, a cast mesh or even a prefabricated mesh for the lower dentures, because they break with flexion. The mandibular flexion is there, the forces are there, so they tend to break. So always you can give a thicker flange and a framework or a mesh work. Fine. And you can see now the implant is well within the confines of the denture. We have not damaged the denture much. The structure is intact. We have protected it with the mesh work, and it looks aesthetic also, even though it's in a non-aesthetic zone. Fine. This is the post-operative smile. Another case of removable denture with a milled framework and a resilient attachment. With 3 implants, this is a compromise case. We would have liked to place 1 more implant, but since we could get implants on either side of the arch, we placed 3 implants. And on the bar, we milled 4 inserts, 4 retentive components, 4 male components, and we have resilient components. Resilient components are good in the sense like they take up the forces, and so if there is any wear and tear, we can change it. The framework is not going to be affected. So this is one option: bar supported and ball supported removable dentures. So coming to the numbers again, which are very important. You need at least 15 mm space from the implant to the incisal edge of the denture for your ball abutment. Okay. If it is less, we will end up in damaging or perforating the denture, and especially in the midline, if you perforate, it's going to weaken. Locators are low profile attachments. Yes, you can do with 8 to 10 millimeters of space. And if you're planning to give a bar to improve retention and to improve patient confidence, you need at least 18 mm. Don't go for a bar if that's less than 18 mm. Because the labs might do because you are forcing them, but the denture will be very thin and it will break, as we saw in the previous case. And you also need horizontal space of 10 mm around the implant. I'm talking about the prosthetic space, not bone of 10 mm, prosthetic space of 10 mm. So remember the rule of 10 by 10. It's very simple. 10 mm vertical space and 10 mm horizontal space for any overdenture. Okay. And also the implant position should be planned in such a way that for your hybrid processes, your prosthetic access hole should be always lingual to the teeth. It should be wherever possible in straight line to the abutment or implant. There is no doubt in both the cases. But when you consider the prosthesis in a hybrid denture, it should be lingual to the denture, and in your screw retained PFMs, it should be just along the long axis or just along the cingulum. This is very important because if you get the same screw axis along the cingulum of the teeth in your hybrid denture, it's going to weaken the denture because the design is such. Okay, there is no flange. It is just a kissing contact or a light contact with the ridge, so it's going to weaken the denture. So this design is also very important where your prosthetic emergence occurs. So we saw 2 cases of removable denture. Now we'll see a case of implant supported, fully implant supported fixed complete denture, implant level. Okay. The pictures are self-explanatory. This is one technique earlier which we used to do when you do a CBCT. You give a marker or a sleeve and you validate that with the surgical guide before this guided surgeries, whether before these accurate softwares were there. We used to do this. So now you have this clear denture. See, this is a diagnostic denture. This is a radiographic stent. This is also a surgical guide. And if you want, you can use this also as a temporal. So that's why assessing the space and making a provision for temporary will help you in the long run. So we're drilling it, implant placement, we went flapless. Not going to explain the implant placement procedures. You'd have heard a lot from skilled surgeons. So this is a primary requisite. If you at all you're going for immediate loading, please check the primary stability with your ISQ. Use scientific ways. Tapping or sounding the implant will not give you any numerical values. Impression. See, this is an implant level. Implants, we have placed just the healing collars. Then the impression copings are screwed in direct to the implants. Splinted. Is a custom tray with a polyether monophase because you need a really rigid material. This is the framework there. You can see the framework fit is well. This is a milled framework, so you will get good fit most of the times with non-engaging connections. Okay, implant level is really good. So it is not like you should not do anything at the implant level or nothing like that sort. You can do. In some cases, you have to do only at the implant level where there is no enough space and they really function well. Fine. Post-operative. And you have your Marlowe bridge. This is a small variant wherein the framework itself will have structures like a prepared tooth. You can see here. It is also a milled framework, but here you will have structures like your miniature prepared tooth, wherein you can lute the individual crowns with your cement. Here you need not worry about the prosthetic axis because the crown is going to cover it, and you need not worry about chipping off or a fracture of the crown because you can change only that crown. You can remove the whole process. You need not subject the entire framework to ceramic firing cycles again and again. So that's the difference between a Marlowe bridge, a Marlowe frame, and a hybrid frame. Okay. Marlowe frame is almost always milled. So don't, if some labs say they will cast it for you, it's not going to work. The casting is at it's near the fag end. It's all milling. You can see the titanium blank milled. You get very nice fit. But there are some conventional cases wherein you cannot group them into either fixed or removable. You need to do some prosthodontic gimmicks. For example, this case, a young man, his entire right side mandible, tooth loss was there, no lesion and all, but there is definitively a step deformity, advanced bone loss. So we placed 4 implants. Okay, if you want to see, this is where we place the implants. We engage the incisive canals anterior to the mental foramen. We place 4 implants. They are noble active. But how to restore given the discrepancy in the vertical space? The left side and right side, definitely there is a difference in the prosthetic space. The implant platforms, definitely they are at a different level. You can see. So we went for a customized frame wherein the area where there was bone defect, which had a more vertical space, we went for a milled framework with resilient attachments, sort of removable attachments. And on the left side, we went for the conventional fixed screw retained abutments. You can see we have put multi-units. On top of the multi-units, one side we have given a milled frame for a resilient attachment. Another side, we have left it just like that for the denture to directly engage it. Okay. So this is the process. We have a follow-up of almost 7 years for this patient. He didn't even come to change the resilient attachment. Another case, one of my earliest cases. Don't think it's all on 5. Actually, I put 6 implants. But since we gave a removable complete denture over that as a provisional, there was excessive force and we lost 1 implant and we were forced to restore it in this situation. So that's where I say you're all on 4 or 5 or 6. Coming to the numbers of implants, you have some guidelines or suggestions. You don't have any definitive rules. What works out in one case may not work out for the another case. Okay. So 6 is a good number in maxilla, 4 is an acceptable number in mandible. If needed, you can increase the number of implants. And of course, if you are using the correct all-on-4 protocol, you can decrease the number of implants to 4. So like this, we give this patient a upper fixed denture and a lower removable denture. Lower, we gave a removable denture because the mental nerve was almost at the ridge. And we thought, okay, all-on-4 protocol is not going to function because we need enough bone anterior and superior to the mental foramen, to the mental nerve. So, but this patient was wearing this denture for almost 10 years, but still she was happy with the maxillary. She was not happy with the mandibular. She always wanted a fixed mandibular dentures. I always kept discouraging her, no, it's not going to work. But she had her way finally. You can see how the abutments were over a period of time. So the dissected portion which is there, that is the mental nerve. It's just at the crest, and you can see the bone available between the previous implant and the mental nerve. So we managed to place implants there, 2 implants. We know our implants will be exposed and we cannot angulate it favorably. So 4 axial implants also work well. Placed it, but we did a lingual cortical engagement. I made sure it had a lingual cortical engagement so that even if there is a future bone loss, but I don't expect any bone loss because it's all cortical bone. Even if you do some grafting and other things, there is a primary stability. Okay, we did the case and we restored it with a hybrid. So much about the restorative space. The next important thing is your smile line. You know, it can be low, medium, or high. Because this is the one which dictates your aesthetics. If your smile line does not reveal the transition zone or the junction between your implant and the prosthesis, you're safe. It's a simple case. It should be a simple case. But if the patient has a high smile line and it reveals the transition zone, then we need to take extra care in camouflaging the transition zone. Okay, anyhow, there's going to be metal show through. So either you give an artificial papilla, that's why we say in all-on-4 or in a hybrid denture, always artificial papilla. You cannot contour exactly the residual mucosa as a gingiva in all the biotypes. It's going to be difficult. Instead, you just keep it in a healthy way and you can give an artificial papilla. If it's a low smile line, then you're safe. So, and these two go hand in hand. Advanced resorption means removable option, more exposure, so you go for an overdenture. Less resorption means, or a recent extraction means, there's going to be less exposure. In fact, you need to trim the bone or you need to reduce the bone to create prosthetic space. So you find out whether in that case you need to create prosthetic space by reducing the bone, or you need to augment or create prosthetic space by augmenting the bone, or you need to do a prosthetic change or give a removable denture to compensate for the loss of tissues, both hard and soft. Okay. So this is the transition zone. In this case, I have put because if you have a low smile line, you can get away. No grafting, no soft tissue grafting. It's an FP3 prosthesis, but we can get away easily. And again, this is a full arch fixed hybrid denture. Again, smile line is also important. You can see we have given artificial papilla, all the carving, gingival zenith, festooning, and even the a little bit of root morphology is also given in the hybrid denture. Like natural papilla. The original soft tissue is apical to this.
Please wind up the presentation,
So
Doctor.
this is a recap. Yeah. So this is the numbers which we have already seen. So I think you have got the answer for all your questions regarding your space and the smile line. A little bit about tilted implant concept. So again, it is determined by the zones where you have bone. Earlier speakers have spoken about Badrasian and Karamis classification. I'm not going to go into details. Only thing what I'm going to tell you is if you're going to go for all-on-4, you have to be really careful regarding the prosthetics. This is a case they have restored with 4 implants in maxilla hybrid. Fine, all seems to be fine. But after 5 years, this is how the patient reported. He complained of mobility when we saw the distal most implant on the right side was failing. You can see there's no bone, the circled one. So we removed it. We went for a longer implant. Fortunately, we had bone. So here, if you notice carefully, earlier days, we did not engage the anterior wall of the sinus or the nasal cortex for that implant. So exactly that implant failed. Fortunately, we had bone, so we engaged the anterior wall of sinus, tilted it a little bit, and engaged the nasal floor, and we were able to salvage the situation. So here for tilted implants, you have to use multi-unit abutments. So there is no question regarding whether to use multi-unit abutments or not. If you have placed axial implant exactly parallel or within 20 degrees of parallelism, you can go for implant level processes without any multi-unit abutments or without any abutment for that matter. You can directly mill the interface and go. But if you're using tilted implants, you definitely need multi-unit abutments because they are the ones which change the angle of tilt, which orient or which bring the platform, prosthetic platform along one plane. Okay, the path of insertion, if you remember, it creates the path of insertion, and we need a single path of insertion for the ease of placement and removal, and also for superior biomechanics. Okay, so multi-units you need for both angle correction and also to bring the prosthetic platform to the abutment level, to bring it above or at the level of soft tissue so that it's easier to do impressions, trials, and other procedures. So if at all it's a tilted implant, it's only abutment level multi-units where we are going to work. Okay, and I had some cases for showing the removal processes. You have some options also. You can either do a conversion denture like this. It has its own problems, breakage, plaque accumulation and all. Or you can go for a milled processes, milled temporary. This is a 3D printed one. This is a milled one. This is a 3D printed one of first one of its kind. Or you can plan a virtual temporary also. So this is a routine case of immediate extraction, implant placement. Again, rock solid Straumann BLT using the ProArch concept. Done under GA. Immediately make an impression. Don't worry about the soft tissue levels because we are going to give only a temporary process. So here you can see on the left side, it's a CAD/CAM milled PMME. The patient was wearing it for 1 year very comfortably. You can see the contours, the less bulk, and the strength. Whereas if you're going for a conventional denture, you need to be more bulky. It tends to accumulate more plaque and it's time taking. So better to have a milled temporary. So this is a temporary on the second or third post-operative day. This is a fixed, the permanent denture. Similar case, again, Straumann. Virtual plan, just to show how the virtual planning is going to help you. We did a 3D printing with the photoresin. Okay, we added some gingival ceramic. This is with the temporaries in place. So if you give a fixed, comfortable temporary, the patient is not going to trouble us. This is a case of zygomatic implants. Implant positioning. This is a post-operative. So your surgery and processes goes hand in hand. The surgery is executed based on prosthetic planning. The prosthetic part is going to be easy. And if the prosthodontist guides the surgeon in placing the implants, where to place, how to place, whether you need to reduce the bone, whether you need to tilt it more, number of implants and other things, it's going to be a cakewalk for both. And of course, you have complications, which is beyond the scope of this lecture. Coming to the futuristic trends, of course, digital planning. Before even you touch the patient, you have the prosthesis, both temporary and permanent, ready in your hand. This is for a full mouth case using the Deonavi system. We are planning to do it. Of course, there are some advanced systems wherein you can even scan the face, integrate it with your virtual articulator, do a 3D technique. Your futuristic materials are mostly towards milled processes like your BioHPP, PEEK, or milled titanium. Fine. So the choice PEEK and PEEK is going to be less weighter and more aesthetic and more repairability is there. You can just do a add-on crowns on it. So to optimize, what we need to do is you have to understand the patient's needs and do a prosthetic-based treatment planning, right from the time of imaging to surgery to prosthetic execution and maintenance. It should be a scientific one based on definitive principles and recommendations. So thank you for your patient listening. Extend my thanks to all my family and friends. Special thanks to Dr. Johnson Raja, and also to the management and office bearers of the CSI Madurai Ramnath Diocese, the Reverend Bishop and Bishop Amma, my HOD and my colleagues. And above all, people from Norris Medical and Dentist Channel Online for giving me this opportunity, and also to all the patient listeners who took off time from your busy schedule to hear me. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Sabrinathan.
So Dr. Anand has asked, can you elaborate on UCLA abutments? Dr. Anand, UCLA abutments, as you might have been knowing, it's a type of castable abutment, right? If you want to customize, it was one of the earlier option of a customized abutment. You want to, like, when your situation demands the abutments to be customized, either the height or the angulation, you use this UCLA abutments onto which you can do a wax up, cast it and customize it. Okay. Now we are not using it much because we have much better and more accurate options of customizing the abutments, such as your milling, your CAD/CAM milling, mill titanium or mill peak. And how much of vertical space for Marlow bridge? See, Marlow bridge is one thing where you can give it for a wide range of situations. At least you need 15 mm, but till 18 mm you can give it. A little 4 mm plus or minus also you can do. 15 mm is ideal. But even for your 12 mm also you can give, and also for 18 mm also. Why I'm telling is because since it's milled titanium, or if you go for milled peak, you can do stronger frameworks in thinner sections or in smaller, shorter sections. Even a small or a short framework will be strong and accurate enough. So on top of it, you can fix it. Okay. So the materials have revolutionized this a little bit. Definitely not more than 18 mm. Marlow bridge will not work because you won't have lip support. That's what. If there is more resorption, you need a lip support. Don't go for hybrids or Marlow bridge. Please go for removal. If you have less resorption within 18 mm from the occlusal plane to the bone level, you can play around with your Marlow bridge, either your Marlow bridge or your hybrid. Hope that answered your question. And Dr. Sachin has asked what indication should be given for the maintenance of screw retained hybrid process. Yes. The first thing is, I tell my patient, like, if they don't turn up whenever we call, there is no guarantee. The guarantee stands null and void. Guarantee of the implants and the process stands null and void. So they will come. So that's first thing is the maintenance. Sorry. Second thing is hygiene maintenance. They have to use their water pick or the water floss, brushing, and also it's better to give a soft splint, a protective occlusal splint for the patient to wear at the night times, because the most common problem with the hybrid is the chipping of the prosthetic teeth. Okay. And Rahul Jas asked how to identify bone height vertically in overdenture. Very simple. That's why I told you, you do a diagnostic wax up. You remove the low, mount it, remove it from the articulator, from the upper occlusal plane to the crest of the ridge is your space. Of course, your soft tissue might be 3 or 4 mm thick, so you can add that also to that. So our diagnostic wax up will help you. I think you answered the questions. And Dr. Shuganti has asked, in compromised case, bars are put out, how to manage stress on bone? Yes, that's a good question. We go for bar retained overdenture in case of extreme resorptions. Okay, so it's better to get good primary stability with cortical engagement wherever possible. Get cortical engagement even for overdentures. That's one thing. So that will transfer the stress to the cortical bone. And another thing is reduce the cantilever in the bar. Sometimes if we have a highly pneumatized sinus, we tend to place the implants, all will be crowded in the anterior region, in the canine premolar region. But our process will be extending till the first or second molar. In that case, the technician will also be extending the bar. Though you can extend it 1.5 times till the AP spread, it is better to limit the cantilever. Wherever possible, no cantilever in the bar, or if at all you are giving a cantilever, 1 to 1 molar width cantilever is enough. 2 to 2.5 mm is enough. So this thing, your cortical anchorage, spreading of the implants, and choosing the proper implant design will help you in reducing the stress on the bone. Of course, the occlusion. If it is opposing a fixed denture or a natural dentition, then you really need to take care of all this. Or if the opposing tooth is again an implant supported denture or a removable denture, I think there is a little bit of leeway space for us.